Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Inside the Helmet. My name is Michael, and I am joined by my dad once again.
Good evening.
Good evening. We're going to get right into it today on this nice Wednesday evening. What do you got for me?
Well, the inside the helmet portion that we start off with deals with maybe things that fans in the stands don't know that people who've been on that field as players and coaches do know. And I think the topic this week should be football, as we know, is not a contact sport, it's a collision sport. And fans who've never put on a helmet and shoulder pads and been down there might think that every play where someone gets tackled hurts.
Yeah.
And you and I know that's not actually true. So I wanted to kind of address actually what hurts and what doesn't hurt on the football field.
Sure, yeah. And it's going to be really interesting because we both, of course, in our playing days, mine aren't over, but you know what I mean. We played different positions. I'm a quarterback, of course, and you played wide receivers. So I think it'll be really interesting to hear our differing answers, maybe, given the different scenarios and situations that our positions find themselves getting hit in. That being said, for me, the hits, obviously, I would suppose on the bigger side of things, body physiology wise. Um, so most of the time, I feel like I can take a hit pretty well, and you have several hundred, maybe even $1,000 or more worth of protective equipment from your helmet, your shoulder pads, all the knee pads and thigh pads that they give you. So you're well padded up. It's not like this is, you know, blood sport or something
Yeah,
like that. There
they've
are
thought about
certainly
this. Yes.
they've
Yeah.
certainly thought about this. Plenty of protective measures, plenty of rules. So yeah, not all the hits that you think would hurt super bad actually hurt even at all. Um,
As evidenced by the fact that people will take a big hit and pop right back up.
exactly. That's something I do basically every time. I don't know if I can even remember a single time where I took a hit that was so gruesome that it actually left me on the ground for any
Yeah,
extended period of time.
okay.
Can you think
Okay,
of that?
okay. Yeah, I'm going to jump in because I remember
Okay.
last year I was watching a game and you were playing and you held the ball. You were trying to be brave and hold the ball to the last second to complete a pass with a dude right in your face. It was a linebacker blitzing, and you completed a pass, and this dude basically picked you up and planted you on your back. And I was going, oh, geez, here comes concussion protocol because your head hit hard on the turf.
Maybe that's
And
why I don't remember it.
yeah, I know. I definitely, when it happened, I went, "Oh, this one is different than the regular hit." And so, whether it hurt or not is different, but the damage it could cause. I mean, we all know about the running back who plants his foot, the foot cleats stick in the turf, and the knee gets twisted, and they rip ligaments and stuff. I'm not talking about injuries. What I'm talking about are actual hits
Yeah.
that guys bounce back up from, and the players I mean, the fans in the stand go ooh, but it really didn't hurt, you know
Hmm.
and football players get credit for, oh, he's so tough, but you're as a player, you're going, yeah, that one really didn't hurt because he hit me in the thigh pad or something like that. But as a quarterback, what hurts and what doesn't hurt?
Oh, jeez. Um, I would say first and foremost, getting blindsided. I'm right-handed, so when I'm turned to throw, My shoulders and my hips are turned one way so that I can properly throw, which leaves me vulnerable from the other side, from my left side. I can't quite see that way quite as well. And I'm especially vulnerable if my left tackle or my running back maybe misses a block, and now I have someone who may be one of the only people truly larger than me on the field running at me full speed with nobody to stop him from killing me.
And that's the key,
Those
is that he's
immediately
running full
come to
speed.
mind.
Yeah, and he's
Exactly,
running full
yeah.
speed because he's got like 4 or 5 steps to gain momentum. And when you do the math equation between size plus momentum, and they hit you in the back, I mean, that's going to take your breath away. And maybe it doesn't like injure you or put you on the sidelines, but it's got to hurt more than if you have a defensive tackle, for example, who happens to push your offensive guard back into your face, and then he takes one step and brings you to the ground with a big beefy arm or something like that. You know,
Exactly.
it looks like it hurts, but it doesn't hurt. I know as a wide receiver, the thing that we dread, obviously, is when the play calls for a wide receiver to run the skinny post, or essentially 3 or 4 steps, and then you cut into the middle, and the quarterback drills the ball hopefully into your stomach area, and hopefully not up high where you're exposing your ribs. But either way,
Yeah.
you're in linebacker territory. And those linebackers, these dudes at high school and college level, can be 220 pounds, 240 pounds, whatever it might be. And these are usually the meanest dudes on the field. And if they hit you like 1 second after you're trying to catch the ball and they catch
Hmm.
your ribs, you wear rib protectors, of course, but
Yeah.
boy, sometimes those will just knock you sideways. If you're a wide receiver out on the edge and you're being tackled by a cornerback that probably weighs less than you do and is not hitting you straight on, he may tackle you and bring you to the ground or force you out of bounds or whatever else, but it doesn't hurt at
Yeah,
all. Yeah.
for sure. Um, yeah, to add on one more thing to what you mentioned about the defensive tackle who maybe doesn't have a full head of steam. One other thing that people might have a misconception about is that, maybe defensive tackle who's upwards of 300 pounds, even if they don't get a full head of steam to hit you, surely if they land on you, having all that weight on you would
Yeah.
hurt to a degree. But
Yeah.
from my experience, not really,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. And
Um,
and the crowd goes ooh and ah, and they think, oh man, how's he going to get up? And then he pops right back up.
yeah,
It's because of the padding, and it's just not as violent as you might think it would be. Now, again,
exactly.
there are plenty of times we've all watched. Anybody who's ever watched football knows that sometimes things happen and players get carted off and they twisted something. So the real bad injuries happen, I think, either with the knee, not so much the ankle, because the ankle's kind of taped so it can't bend a certain way
Yeah.
before the game. So it typically is the knee, the ribs, and occasionally you'll see a shoulder. And when you see a shoulder, it's usually a running back who takes the ball, runs straight up the middle into the hole. The linebacker is coming with a full head of steam, and they meet head on.
Hmm.
And that's when something can happen with a
Or they fall
shoulder.
on it.
Yeah, or they fall on them. We also see a lot of injuries where the offensive linemen are trying to block. They're engaged in a block, and someone will fall onto the back of their leg,
Mm.
and there's really no way to prevent that.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of the linemen wear braces on their knees, I think, to help with that. But a lot of those big hits that you see, just watch how the guy pops back up. And that's due to the protective equipment and the fact that maybe you're hitting them at an angle instead of head on. It can it's interesting. I think anybody who's ever played the game understands that at that last second, right before the hit,
You're
instinctively
preparing for
the
it.
yeah, you're preparing for it and you're positioning your body so that you don't take the full brunt of the hit.
Exactly. I feel like that's maybe the biggest thing that the fans in the stands who maybe have never put on a helmet before might not understand or really be used
Yeah.
to the concept of is bracing for the impact.
Well, I remember a quote. They interviewed Emmett Smith, the NFL's all-time leading rusher, who was not a really extra large big dude. He certainly was built, like an NFL running back. But they asked him about that because how did you get so many yards? And he said he had a natural ability at the end of the run, right before the impact, to not take a full hit, so, to position his body so that half of his body took the hit, maybe, but not his entire body. And I still remember that quote from him, that was the key to his success. In addition to the fact that he had big offensive linemen, and NFL
Of
Hall of
course.
Fame linemen blocking for him, and he was short and they couldn't find him. But you wonder how somebody like Barry Sanders last as long in the league as he did. I know he retired early, but it's because at that very last second, you shift your weight from one foot to another, and your entire body doesn't take the hit. And the guys who are really good at that are all the people that we know by name because they made it to the highest level of football and were able to continue their career without suffering some type of massive injury. And anyway, I think maybe the fans in the stands would be interested to know that just not every hit that looks big, you can hear the pads clack sometimes.
Hmm.
But if you hear the pads clack, a lot of times that means that the pads did their job. And
Yeah,
that's why the guy bounced right back up.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
So so interesting game this week with UT. We always talk about the University of Texas. It's our hometown team.
of course.
And they played Vanderbilt. And I think that you had a listener question uh, about that game that we wanted to address.
I think you're maybe jumping the gun just a little bit,
Okay.
mixing up our hometown teams. We had a question about the Cowboys. We'll get to in a little bit. Thank God the Cowboys don't play this week, so we don't have to talk about how much we think they're going to lose by again. Um,
Right. I thought they
but
played,
we
and I
did.
thought UT was off this week.
No, UT has Georgia.
I thought. Well, I haven't looked at the schedule today, so I thought they were
Cowboys
off.
and
But
Chiefs Cowboys, Chiefs, Bengals, and Titans have a bye week this week,
oh,
this
okay,
upcoming week.
all right.
Yeah. Yep. And then UT, I believe, has Georgia.
Ugh,
So,
it's gonna
yeah,
be tough.
yeah, definitely gonna be tough. Um, so no question per se, but we did have some things to maybe talk about with the Vanderbilt game because if you saw the game, you know Texas jumped out to maybe an unexpected strong lead, being up what as much as 34-10 or something like that at one point.
Something like that.
But then in the fourth quarter, Vanderbilt started to charge back, and there was some talk about, oh, or the referees helping Vanderbilt get back in the game, particularly on that 1 2 point conversion that very clearly was not across the line, but they still gave it to him anyway. Um,
Spoken like a true Texas Longhorn fan, of
I
which
mean,
I
have
am.
you seen the
I am
replay?
one. No, I've seen it. They
Yeah,
What they said was that the pylon camera was not fully aligned with the goal line. That's how they justified it, and I wasn't there. I don't know. Um,
that just seems ridiculous to make up an excuse for. Anyway, I wanted to talk about how Texas almost blew the game by allowing them to come back. Of course, after starting so strong, you can't really look at Texas and go, "Well, Vanderbilt just was the better team in the fourth quarter." We were talking about it beforehand and mentioning how once you get up a sizable lead and it looks like, okay, yeah, we've got the game in hand, you tend to take the foot off the gas as a form of sportsmanship, respect, whatever you want to call it. I know you were talking about Mac Brown, great Texas coach, who would, during those dominant years, if they'd maybe be putting up 50 on an opponent or so, once it hit a certain threshold, like 50 or whatever it may be, he would, okay, pull the starters out, put the backups in, take the foot off the gas, and all that, and they wouldn't score, but maybe another touchdown or so. I wanted to kind of talk to you about this as a coach and see what your philosophy is. Do you just keep running up the score because you never know, maybe the other team will start to come back, or do you ease up, or does it depend on who you're playing against?
I think it depends upon the coach too. There was a
Yeah,
time when there was a time Barry Switzer and Jimmy Johnson, when they were college coaches, were notorious for running up the score and getting those 77-3 games. And Jimmy Johnson famously once said, "If you don't like it, stop it.
yeah,
And if you can't stop it, then that's on you." But no, in a game like where Texas had the game in hand, I think that there is a natural inclination to say, well, okay, let's not run up the score. Let's kind of just bleed the clock a little bit, run the ball, and then you don't make first downs. And the other team gets inspired if they happen to score. And now suddenly momentum is shifted. And that, I think that's what happened in the Texas Vanderbilt game, was that Vanderbilt got the momentum in the fourth quarter, and Texas was holding on for dear life as it turned out. I mean, it was a 3 point game, I think, at the end,
it
and
was.
it's pretty common. You'll see it. You'll see both things happen. It's one of those situations where two things can be true at the same time. That sometimes you
Sure.
have a team that's so dominant that they don't need to run up the score, but the other team has no ability to come back. But once you get to college football, pro football, where they do have the athletes on the other side, if you take your foot off the gas like that, you're inviting the other team to come back. You're playing a prevent defense. You're letting them complete passes underneath, and they start moving the ball down the field. And you look up, and now suddenly a three-score game, which we know is sort of the threshold. If it's a two-score game, I think you coach differently. But once it
For
becomes a
sure.
three-score game, you go, well, I've kind of got this in the bag. Let's bleed the clock and get out of here. And that happened to Texas, certainly against Vanderbilt, where they took their foot off the gas and Vanderbilt came back, and Texas found themselves in a bit of a dogfight.
For sure. I really like the way that you put it when you're at these higher levels, college and pro football, the other team is going to have the good enough athletes to make a comeback if you let them, if you invite that in. I think that's especially true when you're talking about a game between two highly ranked opponents. Vanderbilt is not the slouch of an opponent that they have traditionally been. This is not
Sure.
San Jose State or Sam Houston, a team like that we're going to beat by 50. Talking about taking off the gas, taking your foot off the gas against them because they just don't have the capability to come back in
Right.
that situation, barring some miracle. But Vanderbilt, a team that has come to be very good in recent years, does have the capability to. So I think that there's probably an element, like you mentioned, of okay, we're up by 3, 4 scores. Let's let's take our foot off the gas, drain the clock, and get out of here. But I feel like if Texas did intentionally do that, they did it too soon.
Yeah.
I don't think against an opponent like Vanderbilt you can get that comfortable that easily, especially with the element of momentum being a factor.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. And it happened to Texas. They got out of there with a win. So their philosophy worked, but it is going to be different. Uh, I think psychologically, Texas' next opponent is going to be Georgia. And
Hmm.
I think if you got up big against Georgia, for example, you wouldn't take your foot off the gas necessarily as quickly as you would against Vanderbilt, and certainly not against San Jose State.
Of
So,
course,
yeah. So it's
for sure.
interesting. Um, Coaches always talk about during the week about, well, what happens if this happens? How are we going to react? And maybe
Hmm.
coaches need to spend more time talking about what if everything goes right in the first 3 quarters for us?
Yeah,
How are we going to approach the fourth quarter? Are we just going to bleed the clock, or are we going to continue to run our regular offense and try to advance the ball down the field, score points, and you know, uh, I mean, it's one of those things that coaches have to wrestle with. How do we approach? They always talk about what if things aren't going well? What's our plan B? What's our plan C? But what if everything is going well?
yeah,
At what point do you kind of shut it down, bleed the clock? And sometimes it happens a little bit too early. We certainly saw that this past week.
for sure. Before we move on, I want to just kind of open the book a little bit, I guess, because you have coaching experience. What is your personal philosophy? Let's say you are in charge of a team and you're beaten up pretty bad on an opponent that maybe you're expected to beat. What do you do? What would you do in that situation?
Yeah, um, I've wrestled with it over the years, and sometimes it's in the moment. If you're down to the last handful of possessions and you know that there's not enough possessions left for you to lose, maybe you shut it down and call very basic running plays and bleed the clock and get out of there, because at that point you're trying to avoid injury. I
Yeah,
had a game
true.
one. I had a game one time. The other coach got pretty mad at me. He was a coach that I knew. We were winning by several touchdowns. The game was decided. They didn't have enough time to come back, and it was interesting because I had a an issue at center. We were early in the season, and we were trying to find a reliable center to snap the ball,
Hmm.
and so we put in a new center with 2 minutes to go. The game was out of reach. And what we were really trying to do was just work on getting him some snaps. And so
Yeah.
we were running our regular offense. And as it turned out, our running back, who happened to be your younger brother, who was a great running back, uh,
Great.
took the ball on a basic running play and scored a late touchdown. and the other coach thought that I was rubbing it in, and he gave me what for after the game about
Yeah.
it. And I was trying to explain to him, look, we could have taken a knee, but we were trying to get snaps for our center. My philosophy, of course, is once the game is put out of reach, you put in the backups, and
Yeah.
you let them maybe have a, you can't tell your guys who are
Not to
backups
score.
not to score.
Hmm.
So if they let the backups score, that's on them. And
Yeah.
I don't feel bad about it. If I'm running flea flickers in the fourth quarter with a 27-point lead, then the other coach has a right to be mad at me for doing
Hmm.
that. But in this particular case, we weren't doing that, and so I took
Yeah.
exception to him being mad at me. And anyway,
I,
but that's always
I,
been my philosophy.
for sure. I think my philosophy lies somewhere between yours and Jimmy Johnson's. I like his quote of If you don't like it, then stop it." But I
Yeah.
understand that can be a bit harsh at times. I think it
I've been on the
depends.
other side of it though. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a particular game I remember against the same coach who got mad at
Oh
me
boy.
several seasons before, when we you were the quarterback. You remember this game. It was one of those where nothing we called in the huddle worked, because they
I
had
remember
the athletes. Yeah, you do. They had the athletes and we didn't. And
the
everything that we
cold
did,
dig.
it was just, run, pass. It didn't matter. They stuffed it, and they ran up the score on us. And I tried to approach it from the opposite perspective of, well, if we didn't like it, we should have stopped it. And I told him that after the game, that he was a little bit apologetic about, sorry we ran up the score, and I said, I'm sorry we didn't give you a better game, which is
Yeah.
what made it so interesting several seasons later when your younger brother was playing and we had that moment that suddenly he was mad that we had run up the score, when, I'm thinking back a few seasons before when he ran up the score. So I really didn't feel quite as bad, maybe, as I,
Yeah. For sure.
because it was like,
That that
coaches
kind
remember things.
of that kind of goes into the little, I guess, caveat in my philosophy about it personally. I'll talk about it really quick, then we can move on. Um, for me, it does depend on who we're playing. If I'm the coach of the Dallas Cowboys and we're playing the the Raiders, or a team that, there isn't necessarily any bad blood between,
Yeah.
that, and we just clearly are much better than them, then yeah, I'll show some mercy. I'll put in the backups for sure. I won't maybe restrict the backups to only running up the middle, trying to bleed the clock, because I know what the backups are feeling like. Yes, we get to get in the game. I get to play football,
Hmm.
and all that. So I want to let them play and have their fun for sure, but not do anything too ill. You know what I mean? But if we were playing maybe the Eagles or a team that there is bad blood between, yeah, I'd probably want to rub it in a little bit,
Yeah.
because at
Yeah.
that point there's rivalry, it's personal. So for me, it depends on the opponent for sure.
Yeah. And I think fans who follow a team usually know if you're playing a rivalry game,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe there's an understanding by both fan bases about
Mm-hmm.
how things are going to go and if you're going to rub it in
Yep.
or not.
Oh yeah.
It's a wonderful feeling to be on the winning side of that. It's horrible if you're not, but I think there's an
That's the way it should
understanding
be.
definitely among fan bases and coaches about this is the way it's going to be and how hard we're going to try. So,
Oh yeah.
but generally speaking, from my philosophy of it is, I love a convincing win, but I've been in situations before as a coach, and I know you have as a player, where it can get a little bit uncomfortable where you're wondering if am I being a bad sport here? And you don't really want to cross that line if
Yeah,
you don't have to. But rivalry games, maybe they're a little bit different. But
yeah,
yeah,
for
so
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, all right. Moving moving along. The Cowboys don't play this week, but that there's still been some interesting things going on with the Cowboys. The NFL trade deadline was yesterday,
Yeah.
and this leads kind of nicely into our one viewer question we did have about the Dallas Cowboys. Goes along the lines of, we've talked so much about how awful Cowboys defense is, but maybe we should talk a little bit more in depth about what specifically is wrong with it. Who maybe is at fault, and I guess the main point is what needs to be done about it.
Well, this season probably nothing. The Cowboys traded for Quinnen Williams, the defensive tackle from the Jets. I think he played at
Hmm.
Alabama. He was an All-American. He's made a few Pro Bowls and maybe one All-Pro team. I think I read that.
Yeah.
Great that you add a Pro Bowl defensive tackle because the Cowboys haven't been able to stop the run on first down. And if you
Hmm.
can't stop the run on first down and it's you make 6 yards on a run on first down, you're not going to stop too many people. So I understand the move that they made, trying to shore up their run defense. But ultimately, what has doomed the Cowboys so far this year has been their pass defense. And pass defense, as we
Yep.
know, is made up of two component parts. One is who do you have in the secondary covering people? That's important. And the Cowboys, I think, were missing three or four starters in the secondary, which is important because they're a bad defense to begin with. And now they're playing the backups
Yeah.
out of necessity. But the biggest thing, and we saw it before the season started, they traded their one pass rusher, Micah Parsons, to Green Bay,
Yep.
and now they can't get a pass rush. You, as a quarterback, know if you've got time back there, you're going to find somebody.
Yeah.
And it is so unique when you do have somebody who's got true pass rushing skills that the offensive line has to worry about you as a defensive end. Usually it is the pass rusher. Sometimes it's a linebacker. But if you have true pass rushing skills, then your cornerbacks, your safeties don't have to cover for more than about 3.5 seconds. If you don't
Yeah.
have a good pass rush, it's, you got to cover for 5 seconds, 6 seconds, and guys are going to get open. And for the
Yeah.
Cowboys, that has been their biggest problem. They drafted the guy out of Boston College. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Ezraku, who had 16 quarterback sacks for Boston College last year. And I think the thinking on the Cowboys was, well, we can let Micah Parsons go, and Ezraku is going to become like Micah Parsons. I think halfway through the season, he has 2 sacks. So his game is not translated to the pros. And so, you ask what's wrong with the Cowboys is they don't have a pass rush and they're playing backups in the secondary. That's why they're ranked last in pass defense in the league. And
Yep.
can they do anything to turn the corner this year? Well, the trade deadline is passed, so I guess not.
So,
And
if Quinn Williams doesn't end up being the somehow the one key piece that somehow brings it all together, then yeah, no.
yeah, I'm a lifelong 50 years watching the Dallas Cowboys. Nobody's a bigger fan, but I
Hmm.
don't see something changing dramatically in their pass rush. And
Yeah.
so I think that they're probably going to wind up with a top 10 draft pick. And it's
Yeah.
just the way the season goes.
For sure. And before we move on, just to add one more little layer on top of the no pass rush, on top of the injuries to the secondary, are we've talked about it before, but I feel like it's worth throwing back into the mix again since we're already talking about it. The defensive coaching has been abysmal. We talked before about the ratio of how the Cowboys were running the what was it, the most zone coverage in the league and the least man coverage. There's
Yeah.
such a big imbalance, and teams were able to exploit the middle of the field being left wide open.
Yeah, it seems like that. The
Yeah,
everybody who's in the NFL was the dude in their high school and college teams. So you know that they have talent, but when you get to
yeah,
that level, it's weird how a guy who is the dude on his team gets to that level of competition and suddenly looks like somebody who's never played football before. And I mean, it just speaks to the league itself and the level of talent. If you make an NFL roster, you have elite talent, but that doesn't mean there's a difference between regular elite talent and supreme elite talent.
for sure.
Um, there's nobody on the Cowboys. Deion Sanders is not out there for the Cowboys right now, and they're just
Yeah,
doing the best they can.
yeah, and unfortunately, it's not anywhere close to being good enough.
Yeah. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tough league. It's the best of the best, and
Mm-hmm.
the Cowboys right at this moment. Maybe again adding Quinnen Williams. Uh, he's about to turn 28 years old, so he's not exactly a young up and coming guy. I think I read something that over the last 3 seasons with the Jets, his numbers have dropped off. So he's not
Well,
he's
the
not
Jets have
even
not been very good.
well, yeah, true, but um, it's one of those things where football's the ultimate team sport, and you add a piece, and what are you giving up for that piece? And the Cowboys are giving up a first and a second round draft pick for this guy, and it
Yeah.
doesn't improve their pass rush. So the Cowboys looking toward the draft and next year, and is there any hope? They've got to find somehow, some way, a pass rusher. You can't blitz on every play because if you blitz, you leave yourself vulnerable, and NFL quarterbacks will pick you apart.
Oh yeah.
The elite quarterbacks, the ones that compete for championships, know how, if the blitz is coming off, say, the left side, that you throw to the place where the blitz came from,
Yeah.
and they know how to do that. And somehow or another, Jerry Jones, who's been an NFL owner and general manager for 35 years or something, hasn't figured that out. So I want the Cowboys to figure it out and get back to the glory days from many years ago, from the early to mid '90s, where they did have a dominant team, and right now they don't. And I don't see a quick fix unless they happen to hit in the draft they did with Micah Parsons, and then
And they gave them away.
they made the decision to let him go,
Yeah.
and they're reaping what they sow.
Yeah. It really is not looking very good. Um, we were looking here at the upcoming slate of games for this week, and we were trying to decide what we maybe wanted to talk about. We had the idea. None of these games are really jumping off the page at us, so we want to take a different approach, seeing as it is week what 10 now. We're past the halfway point in the season. Crazy, it's been going by really fast.
Yeah.
Um, we wanted to kind of look more big picture because the playoffs will be approaching us in a month or two, and we've certainly learned a lot, and there have certainly been a lot of surprises this season so far, and so we want to kind of talk about our, I guess, predictions for the end of the year based on how the first half of this year
Ugh.
has looked. So I'll open up the floor to you first.
Yeah. My answer is I have no idea. And usually at this point in the season, I have a feeling for who is a real contender and who's not. And so
Yeah,
far, just about the time it's been a weird year. About the time I think somebody's like, yeah, this is maybe going to be their year, they'll drop a game. And I mean,
yeah,
we've seen historically over the last, ever since whenever Patrick Mahomes took over, you just said, well, the Chiefs are going to be in it, the Bills are going to be in it. When Joe Burrow's not hurt, the Bengals maybe could be in consideration. The Eagles, I
yeah.
know, won last year. The Packers
Uh,
have been up and down. I really don't know this year. I think if I had to put my money on somebody, and I don't even feel as strongly about it, but I would say from the teams that look like the best teams, the Bills are still up there with only a handful of losses. And, maybe
yeah.
this is the year that Josh Allen stops trying to play hero ball in the playoffs, but he has a history of doing that, which usually is what dooms the Bills. If I had to put my money on somebody, I'd probably say Buffalo. But I haven't seen that one team this year that I just thought, boy, they're the ones. They've got it all together. Maybe you're seeing it differently, but it's really wide open this year.
I definitely don't disagree with you. Every team looks incredibly up and down and very inconsistent.
Yeah,
Even the teams that we think are bad have been pulling off upsets nearly every week.
yeah.
Before I kind of give my thoughts, who do you think, since you have the Bills and they're obviously coming out of the AFC, who do you think they would defeat in the Super Bowl? Who do you have coming out of
Huh.
the NFC?
Wow. I mean, I thought that Detroit had been making moves
Hmm.
and has not materialized this year. A
Yeah.
couple seasons ago, we thought it was the 49ers, but Brock Purdy keeps getting hurt. The
Hmm.
Eagles, of course, Super Bowl champions. They're champions until they get beaten, but they've looked vulnerable. Um,
Incredibly.
I
It's great
really,
to see.
yeah, yeah. I don't know in the NFC. It's going to be really crazy. I always love when I can pick that underdog team and I'm seeing something in them, but I haven't seen it this year. Not in the first half of the season. I think
Yeah.
the NFC is wide open. Um, uh, boy, nobody is just jumping right off the page, and we thought Washington was going to be a contender this year, and now Jalen Hurts is not Jalen Hurts. The Washington quarterback,
Shane
Jaden
Daniels.
Jaden Daniels is hurt, and
Hmm.
so
Gruesome
I
elbow injury.
yeah, so he's going to be out for a while.
Hmm.
I don't see that team from the NFC that I think is going to be able to compete, even if they make the Super Bowl and outlast everybody else. I think it's an AFC Super Bowl win this year. Um,
Okay.
Again, I'm going with the Bills. Just I think the Chiefs. It's you never rule them out with Mahomes, but
Yeah.
it just looks like everybody has that Achilles heel this year, either by injury by loss of offensive or defensive coordinator or some kind of a weakness.
For sure. I have to say I think I agree with you that the Super Bowl champion will come out of the AFC, and so I'll start with the NFC. Going along a similar vein, of course, it's always hard to count out the defending champions, the Eagles, but to my delight, they have looked incredibly vulnerable. Even in games that they've won, they've been able to clinch the win by just the thinnest of margins. So I don't think they will honestly go all that far in the playoffs. They look very beatable. I don't even think they'll make the NFC Championship.
Hmm.
I'll go into a little bit more detailed predictions because I guess I feel a little more confident in just what I'm feeling about this. I think that the Detroit Lions and the Seattle Seahawks will meet in the NFC Championship.
Ooh.
Seahawks look red hot right now behind Sam Darnold. He's playing like a legit MVP right now. He started what 16 of 16 in the first half against. I know it's just
Yeah.
Washington, but still, it's hard to not have one or two rogue incompletions here and there. And then they took their foot off the gas in the second half. And then the Lions just. I think the Lions maybe have the highest upside in the NFL. Like when they are firing on
Well,
all
they have
cylinders
that
at
running. They have that running
everything.
game. Yeah.
They have the running game, they have the coaching, they have just the defense. It feels like they don't have a, at least from what I've seen and been able to tell, they don't have a definitive weakness that teams can exploit week in and week out.
Yeah.
Except they have those times where they can be prone to maybe not putting it all together. So, but I actually think that the Seahawks are going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. And then the AFC, I
If you
think we're going to get
if
we're getting Mahomes and Josh Allen again. I I just think we will. I know
yeah.
the Colts have been playing really well, of course, and all credit to Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, all of them, playing absolutely out of their minds for the most part. But I just don't see that level of play being consistent, especially into the playoffs, where
Yeah.
especially Daniel Jones, they're only going to go as far as he does. And it's one thing to play really well in the regular season. It's a whole nother thing to continue that into the playoffs. And so I don't see the
I
Colts
think
making
if
a
you want
deep
my
uh,
yeah,
yeah,
no, not in the playoffs.
not in the
I
playoffs,
think
yeah.
if you want my total surprise, if you want my total surprise pick in the NFC,
Sure. Hit me.
something really random that it could happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've caught a couple of games in the NFC watching the Falcons, and yeah, it's really surprising because you don't think of the Falcons as a championship level team,
I
but
sure don't.
the times when I no, but the times when I've seen them, they've got Bijan Robinson running the heck out of the ball. Michael
Yeah.
Penix, when he's been healthy, has been navigating pretty well. I'm not necessarily saying I see them coming out of the NFC, but I see
No.
the Falcons being the surprise team that could wind up in the NFC Championship game. And everybody says,
Yeah,
how in the world did they get here? Because the Falcons have beaten some good teams and then
they
they've
have.
lost badly. I think they got beat 26-0 or something by the Saints. So you don't know what you're going to get. They're a really young team, and they've got some pieces. Their tight end, I think, is really an impressive athlete, and he'll go a game where he looks like the best tight end in the league, and then suddenly he disappears. But just as a
Yeah.
random throw it out there, you know, uh, remember that on November 5th, I predicted that the Falcons could be the surprise team in the NFC. Doesn't mean they're going to make the Super Bowl, but still, I think they're going to surprise some people because they're young and they're hungry, and they play with a lot of passion when they show up. And
Yeah.
it could happen in the play if they squeak into the playoffs. Watch out for the Falcons.
Well, the Falcons have a good test. Actually, in Germany, they're playing the Colts. So
Oh,
that'll be an interesting one since you mentioned the Falcons.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
back to my prediction for the AFC Championship. Like I mentioned, I believe that it will be another Chiefs and Bills, Mahomes versus Allen shootout,
yeah.
and I think the trend will continue. We saw the Bills beat the Chiefs in the regular season like they usually do, and I think that come playoff time, Mahomes is going to shine brightest, and they're going to make it back to the Super Bowl and win it. It's not something I
Yeah,
necessarily enjoy saying or
I'm
thinking
a
about.
big I'm a big Mahomes fan, but I've got Chiefs
Mhm.
fatigue.
Me too. That's
So
why I'm
maybe
kind
it
of
would,
gritting my teeth a little bit here saying it. But
yeah,
other than the Bills game, the Chiefs have looked genuinely very well put together in the past few weeks. Other than the Bills game, the Bills, of course, a very good team in their own right that just always seems to get the upper hand on the Chiefs in the regular season. But I am just thinking about how often we've seen the Chiefs look like they're out of it, like this isn't going to be their year. But then the playoffs come and they turn back into the Chiefs that we all know and dread, and they make it happen. So I'm
yeah.
thinking that
I
that's
think
going to happen
at
again.
some point in the future, maybe we'll explore that.
Hmm.
That some players and some teams just know how to flip a switch when it comes playoff time, and that's probably worthy of a segment in a future podcast
For sure.
to maybe explore that a little bit. And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know of any teams that really are going to compete with those the Bills and the Chiefs. They've got the playoff experience, and
Yeah,
once you know how to win, it's just makes a big difference. We've seen it on all levels, on in pro, college, high school, even that there are certain teams that just know how to win. They've got the history and the coaching and the players, and so yeah,
for sure.
I can't
Um,
think of any two teams that I would expect to be in the AFC Championship other than those two, and probably
yeah,
whoever comes out will win the Super Bowl. And
probably.
just because, again, love Mahomes, he's one of my favorite players, but I've got Chiefs fatigue, so I'm
Yeah.
probably deep down hoping maybe the Bills make it interesting and finally win
Oh,
a Super Bowl
I want the Bills
this year.
to. I want the Bills to win. I
Yeah.
just don't think they
Uh,
will.
Well, until they do it, it's,
Yeah.
you've flashed back to all the times that they've gotten in the playoffs and something bad happened to them. They've got that long history, and maybe this is the Bills' year. Maybe it's not.
Yeah. Um, one more thing before we move away from the predictions and start to wrap up. Who do you have winning MVP?
Oh, MVP of the
Need a
league.
second to think about it?
Wow. After the Cowboys game, yeah, I mean, after the Cowboys game last week, I say Jacoby Brissett, but that's just because the Cowboys couldn't
Yeah.
stop this guy. Uh,
The
oh
Cowboys would
boy.
make
Um,
the Cowboys would make a
I mean, Lamar
D2
Lamar has
quarterback
won a
look like an
few.
MVP.
Yeah, I mean, uh, it's been Lamar Jackson the last few years, but he's been hurt. I
Hmm.
don't know that Mahomes is putting up big numbers, so I probably would go with Josh Allen.
Okay, I think it will be the year of a dark horse candidate, someone who hasn't won an MVP yet. Obviously, I could see maybe in the second half of the year some of these dark horse candidates start to fall off, and Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson just pick it up, and then it's clearly one of them. But I think as of right now, you either need to look at Daniel Jones, you need to look at Baker Mayfield. You need to look at Dak Prescott. I know being a Cowboys fan, it's pretty easy to say that, but he has legitimately been playing very well most of the time. But my pick is we already kind of talked about the team, Sam Darnold. As of right now, if
Hmm.
I was on the voting committee and I had to cast a single vote for MVP in the NFL, I would give it to Sam Darnold.
I
He's
think
been
I
playing
probably need to
incredibly
watch the
well.
Seahawks. Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
watch them more.
Hmm. He's been
Yeah.
playing very well, very consistently. And
Well,
he
I
seems
mean,
to be just what they need.
Daniel Jones, you mentioned, has had a career year with the Colts
For
after,
sure.
many years of mediocrity with the Giants. They
Yeah.
lost, the Colts lost this week, so it's hard to have a lot of momentum going for that vote. Um,
Yeah.
I can't say I've watched Darnold enough to vote
It
for
looks
him.
really good.
So Baker Mayfield Baker Mayfield has been probably pretty consistent whenever I catch the highlights. It looks like he's
Yeah.
really developed into a leader. And I didn't even mention the Buccaneers as a potential playoff. I went with the Falcons instead. But
Yeah, they're
now that you
definitely
mentioned Baker
still in the
Mayfield,
mix.
yeah, maybe the Buccaneers are legitimate
Hmm.
contenders to at least make the final eight.
For
Um,
sure.
I mean, we'll see. There've been seasons we've seen certain players come along, and you already know at the halfway point, yeah, they're the guy to beat. And this year has been so weird that there just doesn't seem to be that guy
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah. It makes for really good entertainment. Makes it really hard to predict, and I like that
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, I think
starting to wrap up here. We've definitely gone longer than we had planned, but we have one more little
as usual.
what viewer question. Yeah, as per usual, we say we're going to be 45 minutes. We end up doing an hour. We're gonna make this quick in the spirit of F1, but we do have
Right.
a viewer kind of not even so much as a question, but just a talking point that I want to provide a little commentary on because, of course, we didn't have F1 last weekend, but we have it this weekend. They're going to Brazil. Of course, great track, legendary track, loved by many fans, many drivers. And this race is going to have very big implications for the championship. Max, of course, still 36 points behind. Of course, nothing's changed since Mexico. So, still 36 points behind the championship lead. Of course, he did win there with one of the greatest drives ever, winning from starting 17th on the grid last year. Great race. I watched it happen live, and it was one of the best moments of my life. Um, but our viewer kind of talking point is not only just kind of predicting what will happen for Max in Brazil, but what needs to happen that maybe isn't in his control. You know, who does he need to maybe have a really good race, maybe have a really bad race? So I want to talk about that just for a moment. I do genuinely, putting aside all my Max bias, Max is going to win this race. so help me God, he is going to win this race. I saw that man start 17th on the grid in a extreme downpour. People were sliding off the track left and right. It was pure chaos, and he rose above all of them and made them all look embarrassing. And I don't see it happening any other way. So let's get that prediction out of the way. As for
Okay.
what needs to happen around Max, obviously it's very easy to say that he needs Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to DNF, have a mechanical failure in their car that they can't finish the race. They don't score any points. That's the obvious. I don't want to go that route. I Obviously it would be very nice if Lando Norris at least finished lower than seventh or so, took away minimal points, if any. But that's not very realistic. I think the best case scenario, realistically, for Max is that he wins the race. I think Oscar is still going to continue to struggle. I think he may finish somewhere around sixth, given they still have a good car, but he himself has been struggling. And I see Lando Norris finishing somewhere third or fourth because I think that two gentlemen are going to come to Max's not per se rescue, but to his aid. Those two being the fourth and fifth place championship uh, drivers, I guess. George Russell of Mercedes and Charles Leclerc of Ferrari, who recently, just a couple days ago, got engaged. Little side note there. Happy for him.
Hmm.
Anyway, they
Yeah.
have been. We talk about how these drivers have been since the summer break in the past month and a half, 2 months or so. And George and Charles have been on very good runs of form in their own right. George, of course, with the win in Singapore, a couple podiums here and there in the past few rounds, and Charles picking up second place in Mexico and doing pretty well in Austin before that. Two drivers that very well will be in the mix, provided their teams deliver a good car, which I feel that at this point in the year they will. We saw Charles be well and truly in the mix in Mexico, and so I think there's no reason why he and Ferrari shouldn't be particularly competitive in Brazil. So I have
Yeah.
Max Verstappen winning. I think George Russell, he won here in 2022. It was his first ever win in F1. So I have him finishing second, and I have Charles coming third to round off the podium of what I would honestly say are the three best drivers this year, even though none of them have been leading the championship at any point this year, or even really particularly close, other than Max. A lot of people would say they have been the best drivers this year, and I have to say I agree with that. But overall, my prediction Max is going to win. George and Charles are going to join him on the podium, and most importantly, taking points away from Lando Norris. And Oscar Piastri is going to continue to struggle. There you have it. Um,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think I did that in like 5 minutes.
Future question.
Sure,
Yeah. Future question, not for tonight, but
obviously.
for those who don't follow, yeah, for those who don't follow F1 racing,
Hmm.
I want to ask you on a future podcast
Okay.
about. I think we know what makes the difference between a good running back and a great running back, or a good quarterback and a great quarterback.
Hmm.
I don't know that I know the difference between what makes a good driver versus a great driver. And I'm sure that those are things that you can actually quantify
Hmm.
and explain. What is it that why do certain guys win consistently and other guys don't? But that's for a future discussion. People, you're going to have to tune
Sure.
in to another episode to find out the answer
Yeah.
to that question. And I'll give you some time to kind of formulate your answer a little bit. Um, but
Okay.
for people who don't really follow it, there's got to be something that you can pinpoint that says this is what makes a great driver versus just a very good driver. So
For
be
sure.
thinking
I,
about
I
that.
will. I will
Um,
come back with an
and
answer.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Um. I guess
So see,
that's
we
about
set
all
up
the
the
time.
listeners to tune in
Hmm.
again to hear that answer.
Yeah, you gotta come back to hear what I have to say about that. Um. Okay.
That's right.
I think that's about all the time we have. That's more than the time we
Yeah,
had originally planned, but no, I don't think anyone's complaining.
sure.
Um. Yeah, just
Yeah,
want to thank you all who made it this far for tuning in and listening to us talk for a little over an hour. Come back next week. We'll be here talking about some more stuff. Hopefully you find it interesting, and yeah, follow us on Spotify, find us on YouTube,
yeah.
Instagram,
Be
all that
blessed.
stuff.
Yep, be
Mm-hmm.
blessed.
Yep. Good night, everybody.